Okay, everybody, here we go. This is an attempt to see if I can do one consistent recording of me driving along and out of the mountains down along the coast into Malbo. What a beautiful drive it was along the way. As you can see here, I passed by some very famous ruins in a small town. I would have to Google the name, so you'll have to get back to me on that one. Lads, this town was beautiful. I stopped off for two eggs and the closest thing that the Philippines have to an Irish Jew, whose name was told me when I was served, but I wouldn't be able to tell you it all, lads. They have lots of different dishes that are similar to Irish Jew out here, so let's call it the cebu equivalent to Irish Jew. There you have all the kids on their way home from school. Out here they wear a fine uniform all the way through until the college years, whereupon they wear a uniform quite similar to something you'd see a woman in Dunnes Stores wearing. Anyway, while I narrate this journey and tell you a little bit about what I was seeing and what I was thinking along the way, you are going to hear the roosters in the background making up a fierce racket while I wait for a Thai red curry, and you'll probably hear the sound of the traffic in the background. I am in Malbo. Altogether today, my journey was about 3.5 hours, maybe more. Google Maps told me it'll be an hour and a half, but it was like fuck. So, let's take a little bit of a deep dive into the history of Cebu as I comment on what I'm seeing before me. Traffic was light, but lads, back in 1521, things were very different on this island of Cebu. Ferdinand Magellan, if you remember from your history books, he was the fella who, I think, sailed down around the Cape of Good Hope way back in the 16th century. I could well be wrong, because I might be getting it mixed up with Diaz. It's another name that's familiar to me, Bartholomew Diaz. Anyway, I remember that for Ferdinand Magellan. And it's interesting because I'm going to talk about another Ferdinand now shortly, but Ferdinand Magellan in 1521 came over here and established the first Christian settlement. He was the first to instigate the spread of Christianity across the islands. In 1565, another conquistador by the name of Miguel Lopez Legazpi, he established the permanent settlements here in Cebu itself, which are probably better known to the islanders. So Spanish colonization was in full swing all the way through the 16th, the 17th, the 18th century, and trade between the Philippines and China and India thrived. However, the benefits of this were all reaped by the Spanish colonizers, and this caused the uprising in the 19th century. The uprising in the 19th century, also known as the Cebuano Revolt, was led by a lad by the name of Pantaleo Villegas, also known as Leon Kilat, or Lightning in Cebuano. This fella Kilat, right, he emerged as the leader of the resistance, and the revolt itself was sparked as a result of forced labour, high taxes, and the injustices committed by Spanish officials. What happened here, guys? What happened? Quite a significant success in the early days of the result was mitigated by the imposition, let's say, of the Americans. The Americans were at that time undergoing their own conflict in a Spanish-American Civil War, in a Spanish-American War, and so this spread on out to the Philippines. Let's see, right? Despite initial success, including the establishment of temporary governments and the capture of several towns, the revolt forced challenges, including national division and the arrival of American forces. The intervention of American forces, who were seen as a new colonial power, significantly impacted the dynamics of the revolt. So it looks like they were doing fine by themselves under this Killat fella, or Lightning as he was known, until the Americans came along and made a right balls of it. The uprising came to a violent end when Killat was assassinated in 1898. His death dealt a severe blow to the revolt, leading to the eventual suppression by the combined forces of Spain and America. So there you go. So the Americans came out to support the Philippines, and in the end ended up collaborating with the Spanish. So the Cebuano revolt was unsuccessful and Killat was assassinated in 1898. That's your little history of Cebu. That'll take you up to 6 minutes and 35 seconds. Where are we on the motorbike at the moment? We're down out of the mountains anyway. I'm just looking now back at the footage. It was about a 2 hour, maybe it was a 3 hour cruise. You would have seen there one of the Cirrus buses. They're the big green boys who tear up and down the coast here. Quite an efficient bus service, but can be seen as quite dangerous or potentially dangerous to the motorcyclists on these roads, right? On a separate note, I did have a slight or an alleged interaction with a bus myself whilst driving my new blue car in Bacolod, but that's a different story. Let me extend this motorbike journey together with a tale of Ferdinand Marcos, lads. Ferdinand Marcos. What a bollocks. What did I find out about Marcos today? Marcos won the election in 1965 together with his beautiful wife and singer. They took the country by storm. In his first term, Marcos was quite popular. He invested in infrastructure and saw substantial economic growth, enough to secure his second term. And so it was in his second term when he saw allegations of corruption. Allegations of corruption surfaced, and at the same time there was a guerrilla insurrection. This was convenient to Marcos. He declared martial law in the 1970s, and it was the mid-1970s or thereabouts. And under martial law, he was then able to accrue all of the government contracts and this dispensation of the money that was given to him from the World Reserve. Here, that was divided up amongst all his cronies. It was alleged that he amounted a total of $10 billion US, and we'll get to that now in a minute, what he ended up doing with that. But he ruled with an iron fist. He ruled with an iron fist, and it was alleged he was responsible for horrendous atrocities committed upon tens of thousands. That sound in the background mightn't be the best. This martial law went on for 15 to 20 odd years before a popular uprising in 1986. Millions took to the streets to overthrow the fucker. At that point, Reagan stepped in. He offered asylum to Ferdinand and his wife, And on the 2nd of February, or maybe it was the 6th, sorry, I don't know the exact date. In February of 1986, Reagan sent several jumbo jets to the Philippines to pick up Ferdinand Marco, his wife, and 90, a total of 90 in his entourage. Now, there's footage of himself and his wife and his entourage boarding their jumbo jets with nappies, boxes, diaper boxes full of what later was found to be gold, diamonds, his bounty basically, whatever he could take with him, together with his wife's shoe collection, which was rumoured to be the biggest shoe collection on the planet at the time. He was exiled in Hawaii and seemed to live a happy life until a US Attorney Senator by the name of Swift commenced a class action suit on behalf of some 10,000 Filipino claimants under an old law, under a very old law, right? Let me see what it was called. The Aliens Action for Torts. The Aliens Action for Torts, which dated all the way back to 1788. This allowed non-US citizens to sue for violation of international law in US courts. So 10,000 people signed up for this class action. The first named plaintiff, Lilielo Ilu, she had written in a college magazine about the abuses committed under the Marcos regime. She was taken to a detention center and interrogated. The military poured acid down her throat and she died of asphyxiation. Mariano Pimilton, that last name might be wrong, he was a political activist in Mindanao. He was arrested and subsequently released only 6 months after. On his way back to his province, he was abducted by local military police, taken to a sugarcane field, and was buried in a hole up to his neck with a broken leg and a broken arm, so he couldn't dig his way out. He survived because some children saw him and dug him out. He later emigrated to the US and lived to tell the tale. In 1992, the Marcos class action finally went to trial in Hawaii. The jury held Marcos responsible for the abuses and torture under his regime. The US attorney had initially asked the court for $1 billion, which was to represent 100,000 for each of his claimants. The jury, however, awarded $2 billion, which was the largest ever personal injuries award in history. Right, it was the largest ever personal injuries award in history. However, the claimants did not see a penny. The Filipino government would not recognize the U.S. judgments, so they could not go after any of Marcos's assets in the Philippines. No assets could be found under his ownership within the US until an oil investor in Texas by the name of Alan Meeker. So the claimants did not receive anything after that successful award in 1994 until 2010. That is when an oil investor by the name of Alan Meeker found some attractive land he wanted to purchase, but for the life of him couldn't find out who was the proper owner. During due diligence, he unearthed enough evidence to establish Marcos as the legitimate owner, and the reclaim procedures could progress. Ultimately, tens of millions of dollars was reclaimed under that class action and could be dispersed to the claimants. At that time in 2010, some 20% of the claimants had died. But Swift, as the Attorney General who took the class action, he was able to allocate 80% to the original claimants. When he questioned some of these about how they planned to spend the proceeds, the claimants, in tears now, said that they would purchase memorials for the graves of loved ones who had been affected by the atrocities, and that they would send their relatives and the relatives of the deceased to college. This is where it gets disgusting. After the death of Ferdinand Marcos, his wife and daughter and his son returned to the Philippines. His wife was stated, "Like a phoenix rising, the truth will come from the ashes of what was done to us." Like a phoenix rising, the truth will come from the ashes of what was done to us, right? So this is what she said was done to her. They were exiled in the 1980s, but subsequent to the death of Ferdinand were allowed to return. Amy Marcos, who's his daughter, quickly became a senator to popular applause. In the Philippines, the most popular politicians are always those with the most money. Before running for presidency, Marcos Jr. disclosed a net worth of more than 400 million pesos. It is not surprising, therefore, that he won the election in 2022. The total bounty alleged to have been amassed by his father amounts to 10 billion. The hunt for his assets could arguably be called the most ambitious global treasure hunt of all time. So there you have it, guys. That's a nice little trip down memory lane. We heard about the Cebuano revolt in the 19th century in Cebu Island. The leader, by the name of Kilat, or nicknamed Lightning, was ultimately unsuccessful because the Americans got in the way. Oh, here we go, lads. This was an incredible waterfall I saw in Oslo. This is where the whales, the whale sharks, the whale shark experience can be had. I came across this place on the way back. Just a couple of little beach huts right down on the beach. Looked like it was abandoned, or at least boarded up until more tourists came along, but I think I arrived at a very busy time of the year. It was strange that it was abandoned. This here, guys, was the site of the whale shark event. You will see there about 70% of them are Chinese, Japanese or Korean. And it was the odd occasional Westerner. I'm going to shut up here now and leave this. I'm going to just include a musical track. There's no point in me going on anymore because you can just enjoy the scene yourselves. Over and out.